Okay, now that we discussed the types of corrective feedback and what we mean by uptake, let's note that recasts, according to studies, are the most common types of corrective feedback. However, they're not always helpful. Certain studies showed that there are a lot of times where learners do not pay attention or do not notice and ignore recasts. However, they might be helpful in certain situations. Let's move forward a year later. Lister and Dranta in 1998 reclassified corrective feedback. They are the same types, however, they classified them into 3 categories. So the first type we have is the explicit correction, when the teacher simply corrects the question, the incorrect utterance of the learner. And then we have the recasts, which are an implicit way of correcting errors. And finally, we have negotiation of form, which involves no correction, but certain cues for the learner. That is like elicitation, which we mentioned before. Let's go back to the previous slide. And like examples of elicitation, we don't have correction. Clarification request does not involve correction. The word staff is not corrected here. And then we have repetition. I take the bus, I taked. No correction. And finally, metalinguistic feedback. Like here, the teacher explains the rule. However, she does not mention where exactly the error is or what the correction is. So these 4 types are negotiation of form, and they do not involve correction, but prompting. That is like triggering the learner to repair the utterance. Let's look at this important result of a lot of studies here. Lister found that negotiation of form was most successful, this type, no correction, in getting learners to repair grammatical and lexical errors. When we say lexical, we mean related to word choice, using morphemes, etc., and of course grammatical rules. While recasts were actually helpful or effective in repairing phonological errors related to pronunciation and spelling, for example. Now let's move to the topic of using L1 in the classroom. The topic here is not related to a certain method or approach. It's just a discussion about whether using L1 has a role in a second language classroom. Should the teacher refer to L1 at any point? Or should it be a direct method like the Berlitz method, where only L2 is used in the classroom no matter what? There's a lot of debate about the issue, and there are a lot of studies. Communicative approaches focused and stressed the importance of using the target language. However, there are studies that show with evidence that students in some situations actually benefit from receiving their information in L1 and being allowed to use L1, or for example, translating, or the teacher referring to L1 at some point. For example, a study by Moore in 2002 suggested that there are some benefits that include drawing attention when L1 is used to contrast, for the students to see the areas of contrast and similarities between the 2 languages, and this actually develops the metalinguistic awareness of students about the grammatical features and aspects of L2 when they compared it to their L1. Another example from 1979, Widdowson expressed that translation, that is the grammar translation method, could actually be very useful as a device sometimes in certain circumstances and lead to effective learning when it comes to language forms and so on. Therefore, this issue remains a matter of debate, and a lot of factors play a role: the age group of the learners, it differs what the L1 is and what the L2 is. For example, sometimes, let's say, English speakers are learning Arabic. It would be really difficult to start learning Arabic immediately when the sounds and the alphabets, the characters are totally different. Or for example, someone who's learning Chinese and they are European or Arab and so on, referring to L1 could be helpful and facilitate language learning. However, maybe in areas of languages that have similarities, let's say English Spanish, English French, German English, Portuguese Spanish, these languages could be understandable when only L2 is being used. Or for example, Arabic Turkish, Arabic Farsi, etc. Therefore, overtly, according to those who believe that L1 could be used, overtly allowing students to compare words and structures, across languages can increase awareness of both structural differences and structural similarities between both languages. Finally, we come to a very recent topic, and it's something you are experiencing right now by listening and watching this video. It is technology and language learning. In the recent centuries, there have been a lot of software programs and applications in which technology is used to improve language skills. And a lot of softwares and programs focus on reading and grammar, and recently some focus on speaking. And there are experiences of online social interaction across the whole world where learners of certain language could interact with a native speaker of their target language through social media applications and platforms or websites, etc. Therefore, here we have two types of technological devices that could be used, or let's say two ways of using technology in the language classroom. The first way is CALL, which stands for Computer Assisted Language Learning. That is when the teacher or instructor actually uses a certain app or website or software while teaching L2. So these resources are used by the teacher for the learners, whether inside the classroom or the learners using them at home. These also include individual learning, for example, applications like Duolingo, Fluent2, etc. A lot of applications pop every day where a person as an individual at home could learn a certain language. And there are a lot of programs like, let's say, Kahoot, Quizlet, YouTube, Google Drive, Google Classroom. Whatever we're doing now by studying online is computer-assisted language learning. And then we have computer-mediated communication, CMC. Focus here on the word communication. It's not about learning, it's about communication. It is using texts, video messages, video-based programs, also emails, to connect with a native speaker or a learner of the same language using electronic devices, whether it's a phone, a tablet, a computer, whatever it is a technology that connects people through social interaction, and this would be a naturalistic way of communication without being in person with the interlocutor, that is the native or native-like speaker the learner is contacting. This is it. We're done. Thank you so much for attending this course. I hope you benefited for your for the future. I think it's a course that's really helpful for your future as educators, language educators. And keep in mind that a different language is a different vision of life. Language is about culture, it's about civilization, and it's about our everyday life. Good luck in your final. Bye.